Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on. And welcome to an extra special homecoming edition of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm here with my co-host slash guest today, Tony Robinson, as we celebrate his return to Accrington. And Tony, you've been waiting, about 3 years now since you've been able to get back home, and I know you've been really looking forward to it. So to start off with, when did you get into the UK first?
Well, it's nice to be with you, Phil, as always. We arrived 2 weeks tomorrow, so it's hard to believe that we've been here 2 weeks, and we've got 2 matches under our belt. So the match against Exeter was my first one, and then the one Tuesday night versus Rochdale. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and but we're settling in, and luckily I'm adapting quite well to the local ale, so I'm doing okay on that front.
Well, that's fantastic, because I know one of the things is certainly with COVID and whatnot, travel has been difficult. And since the last time that you were in Accrington, what was the last year you made it back? Was that 2019?
Yes, and it really before any of the work that was done, and I mean we've talked about this a lot on the show. We've had David Burgess on, and about the facilities and the lounge, and plus the Coley's bar. And seeing pictures on video is great, but when you actually experience it, Phil, it's the work that they've done and the quality of the work. It's just it really is outstanding. And when I went in both places, it just takes your breath away compared to what it was and how far the club has come. And last week, I was lucky enough I met up with Jimmy Bell at their training session, and he took me back to the WHAM Stadium and showed me around the changing rooms. And I'll tell you, when that's done, it should be soon. It's going to be a top-notch building. They've got top-notch dressing rooms, changing rooms, a conference room where they're going to have meetings and video, a massage or a therapy room. The one thing too is in the dressing room or changing room, they're going to have a TV, so at halftime they can go over replays of highlights of the first half and sort of dwell into things like that. So I think the technology at this level and what they're going to have is really going to be second to none. And then on the top floor, they're going to have 2 what we would be well familiar with in North America is like VIP boxes where they're on the second story, but they can overlook the pitch, and it actually be one of the best places in the whole stadium to watch a match.
Well, that's spectacular, and definitely those luxury boxes like you mentioned. I mean, that's a great way for the team to get some extra income, because obviously those are something that the team can sell as a more higher price ticket. And that was exactly, I mean, you answered my questions before I even asked them to you. That's what I was going to ask you about is how much the facilities and things have changed over the last 3 years, and it sounds like like you were saying, the pictures just don't do it justice, and that's absolutely what I expected, because everything that Andy Holt does is absolutely top notch, first class, and you just can't say enough about everything that's been done with the infrastructure over the past 3 to 5 years, especially.
The one thing was, as far as the infrastructure, and it really doesn't sort of come across on iFollow, is the pitch, because I know years ago it sloped downhill, and it didn't look that bad, but it was noticeable. And then when I was able to walk around the entire outside of the pitch, and where the away fans stand in the Coppice end, to what it was a few years ago, I'll bet you the pitch at that end has been raised a foot and a half, 2 feet. And I mean, over the full length of a pitch, it doesn't really probably come across as that noticeable. But what a job they've done on the pitch. And I mean, it's just like a carpet, Phil. I mean, it's Premier League standards as far as the quality of what they've done. And there's no excuse for not playing decent football because of the quality of the pitch. And I mean, the drainage, the growth of the grass, and the hybrid system they've got, it really is second to none.
Yeah, I do remember when we had Andy Holt on the show right before they installed the new pitch that he did mention they were raising it. Now, obviously, the fact that the pitch is raised isn't necessarily something you can see on TV, but certainly on iFollow, it's very, very obvious that what you see on the pitch, the condition compared to what you saw in 2018-19. I mean, there would definitely every week there would be, some mud spots or some brown patches here and there. I mean, you just don't see that at all anymore. And you did mention the hybrid system, and that's something that's kind of unique to England. I don't know that we have a whole lot of hybrid turf here in North America. It usually is one way or the other, either the natural grass or the full-on turf. So did you get up close and personal, and how exactly does that work? That's something I'd be kind of interested in. How does the hybrid pitch actually come together?
Well, I mean, I'm going to look at this from. I'm no expert in any way, shape, or form, but from what I've learned is that they weave in a like an astroturf or a hybrid grass that is I was going to say a half an inch, quarter of an inch shorter than the natural grass, so that it thickens the turf and the pitch, and so it prevents it keeps it thicker and prevents more wear than it normally would have, because like you say, years ago, League One, you get into the bad weather and it was more mud than and sand than grass, because of the system. As I say, I think it's quite similar to what you see in the Premier League stadiums, and the quality of the grass, the pitches you see on Saturday and Sundays is that's equal to what you see on the television. So, yeah, it's as I say, and there's no excuse for. You can't blame it on the pitch or the bounce of the ball on the pitch anymore like it used to, because the ball runs true now.
I think one of the common questions we get, and it recently came up with David Earl, was if Accrington does get let me start. If Accrington does get promoted to the championship, what would we do about the stadium? And I think the answer is we're kind of already doing that. Is slowly working the infrastructure to the point where, once the product on the pitch can earn that promotion, that the infrastructure and the building's already going to be at that level.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because there's. The Coley's bar is an absolutely tremendous size, and they've got the big screen TVs all over the place, Phil, and they have the well staff for serving people. You can go in there before the match with your ticket and then have a drink or whatever, and then just go out the other door into the stadium with your ticket, and it's sort of really well done. The one thing I wanted to, the first match we were there, and Andy Alt came by and spoke, and when we were in the lounge, and and after the match, and invited us into his the chairman's the inner sanctum of where the chairman's lounge, and we had a drink with Andy, and it was nice to spend a couple of minutes with him, and he appreciates what we do to spread the word of Stanley around the world. And as I put a note on the other day, I think in last month in August, we had 26 countries that we were downloaded in. So I think the club knows that what we're trying to do and trying to promote, and it's just nice that they appreciate what we're doing.
It really is fantastic, and that's one of the reasons that we do what we do is because the club is so appreciative and helpful in terms of helping us with whatever we need in terms of coming on the show. We've had Andy and John Coleman and so many players on the show, and then now you were involved with the man of the match picking for the Exeter match, I believe it was. And our man of the match, now let me make sure I get the pronunciation right. The E is silent, correct?
I called him Doug.
so Doug Thorm, I believe.
Yeah, I believe. Yes, I think that's right, Phil. Yeah.
Okay, so Doug Thorne, he was your man of the match, and that was certainly something I agreed with. It was a 0-0 result, so obviously you're not going to give it to a striker or anything, and I don't think there was really many saves involved. I think Jensen maybe made one or two saves, so he wasn't too busy. So then he started looking at who are the defenders that allowed him not to be busy, and that was a guy playing his very first start in league with Stanley, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's just come over from on a season-long loan from Blackpool. The way when they asked me if I would do that, and I'll tell you, Phil, when you suddenly watch the match from a different perspective because you're invested in, you want to get it right as to who you pick, and it was a process. I was looking at a couple of players, two or three actually. I mean, obviously you look at Sean McConville and Joe Pritchard. Liam Coyle played well. It really came down to Liam Coyle and Doug. And I just thought Doug didn't make really any mistakes, and his long throw-ins created a bit of problem for Exeter in the box. I looked at Jansen, but he, like you said, he didn't have a lot to do with. And in the second half, I felt he struggled on their crosses. He came out to try and punch the ball or grab it and missed it. So I think that's an area game that he may have to work on. He's got the height and he's certainly got the shot stopping ability, but the players really were ruling themselves out of man of the match, and Doug was the one that really made the fewest mistakes and contributed with his long throws.
Yeah, and just taking a look here, it was his second appearance. He had come in as a sub against MK Dons, but it was his first start for Stanley.
Okay.
And he played at center back, so I mean, you have to think that for as long as Michael Nottingham is out, he's probably going to start at center back. And then we had Ryan Astley as the other center back. And then we had Harvey Rogers at left back, then Mitch Clark at right back was our setup for that, and the back line. It's been tough because we've had injuries. We've obviously lost a few guys. I mean, just looking over the past few years in terms of defenders, we've had first it was Callum Johnson that left, then we had Cameron Burgess, Mark Hughes. I mean, we've had a lot of defenders that have moved on. Michael Nottingham, who's definitely our most experienced guy back there now, he's out with an injury, and obviously he had surgery, so it's not something where he's going to be back in a week or two. I think that if we see Nottingham back by New Year's, that would probably be a good thing. So I mean, Doug, he's probably going to be our starting center back going forward, and it looks like that was a good loan.
Yeah, and I think Ashley, he's steady. He's not flashy, but he doesn't make a lot of mistakes either. So I think you'll see him in there. Harvey played left back, and it's playing him out of position. So it was hard on Harvey. He didn't. He's not a natural left back, and I was just reading online that Stanley have signed a completed permanent signing of a defender, Bailey Sloan, from Clitheroe, who's a left back. Now, I'm not sure how if he's going to slot straight in or not, because he's a 19-year-old. So he's fairly young, and this may be one for the future. But you're not seeing him play and don't know anything about the player. It's hard to say. So you never know if he gets thrown into the first team and see what he can do. But Saturday may be asking too much, because obviously Ipswich coming in, and they're going to need some experience. I wouldn't be surprised if the back four you said doesn't start against Ipswich, and I think Jansen will be back in nets after watching the match the other day. I think he'll be back in.
Yeah, let's go back and touch on that Papa John's match, and that was against Rochdale.
Yep.
That ended up 3-3 at the end of regulation. Stanley took it 4-3 at the PKs, and it was really a match for about 80 of the 90 minutes. That Stanley was the better side, and just inexplicably for about 10 minutes, the defense just kind of disappeared, and Rochdale got all three of their goals in that kind of 10-minute period. I don't think there was any doubt who the man of the match was in that one way. It was Sean McConville. I think it may have been Dan Jewell who said that he was almost a one-man side in the second half at times. He really kind of took that game over. But you were there, so tell us what you saw in that Rochdale match.
Well, they were the better side, and the first half, I mean, it was they were the better team, but didn't put one in the net. And I mean, this is the two matches that I've seen. They're getting lots of shots on target, but very, very few. Shots at the net, but very, very few on target. I think Rochdale, they only had 3 on target, and at Exeter, I think they had 2 out of 18. So obviously, that's not a good enough ratio to get your goals. I thought they just switched off when there was it was a 2-0 lead, and then you could just see once Rochdale scored and they got the second one. It really they looked shell shocked a bit at the time, Stanley, and I think Toby was coming out for one on one ball, and he sort of misjudged it, and I think that's a part of a game we saw that last year, that sometimes a bit of indecision on his part, but I mean they started to press at the end, but they got to get the ball into the box a lot quicker, a lot more times, and I'm just hoping that with Matt Lowe getting his goal, you could see the relief on him. And that's another thing, when you're watching it live, you can watch a player off the ball and you don't get to see on iFollow, and you could see the reaction of him when he scored that goal, the relief he had, and hopefully that's enough for him to kick on. He's
a guy that's going to be important, and I'm glad that you brought him up, because he's a guy that I've really had some concerns about, because at the beginning of the season, John Coleman, he really kind of stated that we wanted to play a defensive style of football, and honestly, we played anything but. The results have been there, but not how we've drawn it up. We've gotten goals by committee, but just kind of looking through it, this is what concerns me about Lowe, is going back to match week 1 against Charlton. He played 70 minutes. He had 3 shots, none on target, but he at least had 3 shots. Then against Shrewsbury in match week 2, he played the whole game. He didn't have any shots. Week 3 against Burton, he played 45 minutes. Was subbed off at halftime, didn't have any shots. Against Exeter, he didn't start, came on as a sub, did get 1 shot in the 18 minutes. I mean, here's a guy, he started 3 out of 4 matches so far in the league. He's only gotten 4 total shots, none on target. That's just not quite enough production. So do you think it's a confidence issue and that he's going to turn it around now that he's got that first onion in the bag, if you will?
Well, I think the thing is he's a tall player. He's got some weight to him, and he's got pace. I'll tell you one thing. He runs his socks off, Phil. You cannot question at all his work ethic, and I think it's just his timing and his positioning in the box. What I saw, when a good striker just seems to get into that position when there's a rebound and the ball comes to him, and they just seem to be on the right side of the ball to put it away. And his positioning just seems to be, I don't know if it's bad luck or just still getting used to it, because let's face it, he's playing defenders now that were a hell of a lot more talented than he's used to. And I'm sure in his league, he was able to sort of push people around a bit. Well, I say pushing around, but
right, had a physical advantage.
Yeah, he wasn't being manhandled, and he gets. And I think that seems to be a common thing against Stanley strikers. They seem to get a lot of physical play against them from their central backs. But I think his timing and his positioning is something that he'll work on, and I think Coleman and Jimmy Bell the strikers will help him with that. But the confidence thing will help with that goal. But the other player, another one that just seems to get in the box and just is not sort of hitting the net is Abidoyan, and I like him. He's another one that it's going to take some time. So they've got people not proven at this level. And hopefully, the coaching staff can work with them. And if they get a goal or two, like you said, the confidence could help them kick on.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that Adedoyan, I hope I pronounced that right, has been our best striker this year. And I would like to see, him and Lowe out there together and see if maybe, the two up front works well. And
I just don't think we've seen the best formation yet. And I think they're still finding it. And I mean, we saw in the Rochdale match a central defender, Fernandez, play at the back, and he was taken off at half time, and I think he struggled a little bit against the speed of some of their forwards. So they're still looking at a lot of the players to see where they fit, and changing formations and there's something there when you look at it, Phil, when I'm watching it, there's something that you look at and you go, it's just not clicking yet. The chemistry is just not there. They just haven't found the right recipe for the starting 11. They weren't winning the second against Exeter, especially. They weren't winning the second, third balls. And that third, fourth pass, it was going astray. The quality of that third and fourth pass, just wasn't there. Long passes maybe have been off target and things like that. So the mental and the mistakes they were making is not helping the consistency and the possession stats. Because I mean, they can. That goal, I think the one that started from, I'm trying to think who scored it now, but it was started in midfield when the ball came to Liam Coyle and he just turned around like one touch, bang, and he pushed it forward, and it ended up resulting in the goal. That's the sort of thing that they're capable of, but they're just not doing it enough periods in the game.
I think that we're exactly on the same page with where I was going at, and what I was going to say there is, the formation or something just isn't quite there. Because when you look at the midfield, I mean, Sean McConville, what can you say about him? I picked him as player of the season last year, and I said, I don't think there's any way he could repeat that. Well, he's probably stepped it up and is playing even better. Joe Pritchard, he finally seems healthy, and he seems over the past two matches or so to have been looking more like himself. Liam Coyle, he's playing well. Sean Wally, he's a guy that I really like, especially when he comes in as a sub and he brings that pace. So we've got a lot of talent in the midfield that seems to have the ability to deliver the crosses. That's why I'd like to see if we could get two forwards in at the same time and see if we could really just kind of maybe try to pepper their goaltender. I know that John Coleman wants to play the defensive style, so that's probably why he's gone with more guys towards the back line. But it just seems like at least thus far this season, in order to win games, that maybe we're going to actually have to outscore people, which I don't think that's what Coleman thought was going to be the kind of team we have, but the offensive talent, at least in the midfield, is there.
Yeah, I think defensively, other than the 7 minutes against Rochdale, defensively they've been pretty decent, and especially against Exeter, they really didn't give them a lot of chances. You mentioned Sean Wally, and at his age, you can see the quality he's got, and he's got pace. Still got the pace, and so I like him. He can start for 45 minutes. He can come on and he can make a difference because he just knows what to do with the ball. I mean, he's been around, a long time, so he does that. I just think the two players that we talked about in our preseason, Joe Pritchard and Ethan Hamilton, we haven't seen the best of them yet. I thought they were both off a little bit when I've seen them. I think Joe, especially against Rochdale, was trying to, when they were down, he was trying to do it, trying to do too much himself. He's got the talent, but there's times where you just got to you can't beat two or three players, drop it off or make a pass. And Ethan Hamilton is just not. Yeah, he's just not clicking at the moment because you've got to have those two guys on the top of their game, and then because they can control the flow of a game. What can you say about Sean McConville? I think he's going to be. I don't think there's any doubt he's going to be the man of the player of the month for August. Just the way what he's contributed, his quality is still there, and he's just getting the job done. There's if I was giving them a sort of a score out of 10 right now, I'd give them a 6.5. I think they're okay, but they're still. It's like when you're in school, you should try harder, or the potential is there. They just haven't achieved it yet. They're just not clicking on all cylinders, if I want to use that cliche.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cliche, but sometimes cliches become that for a reason because it is just such a good comparison. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, 1 win, 4 draws, 0 losses. I think that if someone had told you that would be our first 5 matches, you'd have probably said, I'll take it. Maybe not necessarily been thrilled with it, but it could be worse. 11th in the league table, so kind of right in that 11th or 12th range. That seems to be where we've been at the past 2 years. So I mean, I would give us you said 6 out of 10. I would say
6.5. Yeah, plus. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, and they can't really rely on scoring in extra time or in injury time at the end of a match. They seem to sort of turn up the emergency button and play with a little more purpose then, but they've got to do that obviously more often. And if they do get a lead, they got to put teams away. And they just, I mean, as I say, they just eased up against Rochdale, and they should have had them put away. And no disrespect for Rochdale, because I thought they played quite well, and you wouldn't have guessed that they were in, towards the bottom of League Two, because they were there, and I think they played well because they had the new manager, Jim Bentley, on the sideline, and they obviously wanted to impress him. So they were, playing for their jobs kind of thing, and they played well, but.
Yeah, it's a bit of a local derby too. So,
yeah, I mean, it's and they had almost 400 fans from Rochdale, which is on a Tuesday night. Credit to them, but yeah, they just got to put teams away. They got to, and it's easier said than done, but they got to play 90 minutes, and if they have defensive lapses like they did Tuesday against Ipswich, then it's going to be a long day, and it's not going to be a good day for Stanley if they sort of have those drop-offs in play.
Well, that's a perfect segue for the last thing I was going to ask you is let's do our predictions for Saturday, where Ipswich comes to the WHAM, and I know you're going to be there.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I know I was actually last time I saw Ipswich play, and I think Stanley won 2-0, and they played really well.
Yeah.
So they can get up for teams like Ipswich, and like John Coleman said today in his interview, teams like that big teams like that shouldn't be in League One. And he said, but they are. So we've got to do our best to beat them. And so I think, they'll raise the level of play, but based on their home record yet, not having won at home, and the way Ipswich is flying, and their goals for and against, I think it's going to be a tough match. I'm going to go with a 2-0 scoreline.
2-0 to
Ipswich.
oh, okay. You're picking a Ipswich win. Okay, wow.
Well, yeah. I mean,
that's
I just
you usually pick like a Stanley win or a draw.
I know, and I always get it wrong. So I'm hoping if I pick a 2-0 Stanley or Ipswich win, they'll prove me wrong, and I hope they do. I expect a better match than I expect this one to be the best match I've seen so far. And I just it depends on who he starts, but the thing is, John Coleman's got options, and he seems to, when he makes changes, he's making them earlier than he used to in his career. When he's making those changes, they have an impact on the match. They did at Rochdale when he brought on 2 or 3 players, and then he brought Joe on. You could tell they impacted the game. And the players, like some players, come on or looked as a super stub. Josh Wood has come on and played well in a 15-20 minute burst, and he played. He started he started on Tuesday night. And I think he's better on the wing. He's not a striker per se. When you see them over a longer period of time, I'd say they're not as impressive, but they when in short spans they can go for it in 20 minutes as opposed to having to pace themselves over the entire match. But I think it's just getting sometimes some of the players that when they play as a sub and they come on, they play really well. The expectation is they start the next match, but sometimes maybe they're better suited when they come on as a sub, and they can really go for it for 20, 30 minutes kind of thing. But, right now I'm not sure, because Tommy Lee hasn't started. I don't think he started a league match. He comes on. So it's going to be interesting who he picks to start on Saturday, and will Lowe lead the line, or will Kobe be up front? There's lots of choices, so and we'll just have to see on Saturday who gets the nod. But I think Jansen will be back in nets. I think we'll see that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, like you said, it's going to be a tougher match. I was actually going to go with two goals for both teams. And I think that
Okay.
draw has been the name of the game. I know the last time we were there, I think it was 2-0 Stanley. I think that was the first time Ipswich ever came. I think that was a nationally televised game. That was just a really big upset. So, hopefully we'll see a repeat of that. But I'm thinking 2-2 draw. It kind of makes sense to me
Okay.
based on what I've seen so far this season. But it will be interesting to see what lineup they go with, because like you said, it seems like with the five subs, the change in the rule, that John Coleman has really kind of changed his philosophy. Because like you said, I mean, one of the things John Coleman was kind of known for is he'd put out his 11 guys to start the match,
Yeah.
and usually at least 10 of those guys would probably finish the match. But he seems to, with more subs at his disposal, have decided to try to use him. And with those impact players, especially like you said, somebody like a Sean Wally, that he's 35, but he has a lot of pace. You bring him on at the 70th minute, he could just go as hard as he wants for 20 minutes and really make that impact.
Yeah, I think, I think you're going to, with the five subs you're seeing now, that he will make a change in halftime and bring one or two players on, which in the past they didn't, and they might start making changes at the 70th, 80th minute kind of thing. But when you can bring on, and I still don't understand the whole rules with the five sub, but I think one time you can make multiple subs at one time, but he's not shy in doing that at halftime, and I think that's a good thing, because if the players realize they're not performing.
I was going to say, I think that you can change five players, but you're limited to three different times. So you could do like 3 1-1, but you couldn't make one substitution 5 different times. I also know that there's some kind of a head injury rule where I think that if a guy goes out with a head injury, you can do a temporary sub. I know they've had a couple of changes over the past few years.
Yeah, I think you're bang on with that, because when you've seen the changes, there's his first change is usually two or three players, and to make an impact and change, it changes the dynamic of the whole team when you can change 3 players. But we'll see come Saturday who the starting 11 is. I really don't know, to be honest with you, Phil. I couldn't pick that starting 11 now, but it's going to be interesting, and I hope they're consistent, and they go all out for 90 minutes, and because if they're a team that, unfortunately, when they just don't go full tilt and they ease up a bit, they get penalized, and that happened against Rochdale. You can't do that against Ipswich, because they'll punish you, and it's going to be a homecoming, I guess, for a couple of Kane Jackson and Burgess, so we'll probably see them at some point in the match. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be the toughest match so far, but it's a good measuring stick to see where Stanley's at against a team that's really picked for promotion.
I think it's, like you said, it's going to really tell us where we're at, because we're not going to be able to play 81 minutes like we did against Rochdale, or even, looking at, I think the Burton match that ended up 4-4, there was kind of some defensive lapses there. So, I mean, I think as long as we play a full 90 minutes, we'll be okay. But like you said, against a team with that kind of talent, any defensive laughs where we're going to pay big time for it.
Another thing, and this is, I'm just going to say the one thing that, and I noticed too, and I think John mentioned it in his interview, is if the crowd is flat, it just seems the players need to get the crowd engaged in the game, in the match, and they need to get them, especially the ultras and everybody singing and getting the fans behind them, because when it does that, you can feel the momentum shift a bit to Stanley. So I think if they can come out and get the crowd engaged, I think that's going to help out tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think football is definitely one of those sports where the crowd can really kind of energize the team and give them that extra bit of momentum.
Yep.
What else did you have? I know you're over there right now, so what else do you have to add?
Just that I'm going out to the pub again tonight. So I'll have a couple of pints and hopefully pick up some more knowledge about Stanley. It's funny when you go into the pub and you can talk football and things like that. It's kind of nice when you can engage with people like that. So I'm just going out for a couple of drinks with friends and then looking forward to Saturday's match and. I'm fingers crossed we'll see a good game, and hopefully you're right, Phil, or we can fingers crossed we can see a Stanley win.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Tony. Because I mean, if I go into a pub here in Phoenix and I mention Accrington Stanley, the only question I end up answering is who were they?
Yeah. Anyways,
it's got to be great to walk into a pub and be able to have everybody in the pub know who Sean McConville is.
Well, yeah, it's nice just to walk around, taking the atmosphere and everybody's there for one thing to watch Stanley, and it's just the atmosphere and being just sort of absorbing it all. It's really. That has sort of override, when the play's been inconsistent and somebody say, oh, it's not good to watch tonight. I said, well, this for me is really a treat because I'm seeing it live. And this is what I'm here for, is to watch them and sit in the stands and listen to the sounds and watch it all. It's just, that's really the highlight so far. And I'm sure the football will improve. And hopefully, as I say, we'll get a win Saturday.
Brilliant stuff. Well, Tony, on Saturday, make sure that you have an Aki ale or two for me. And until then, on Stanley on.
On Stanley on.
Cheers Tony, Phil. And good luck with your trivia tonight.
Okay. Bye.